Hello, boys and girls. It is time for a writer's workshop. This is Mrs. Alpine again, and today we're going to continue learning about the 6 traits of writing, and we're going to focus on sentence fluency. So far, we've already talked about the trait of ideas, organization, voice, and word choice. And today we're going to look at how our sentences in our writing can have fluency. So when we talk about sentence fluency, we want to make sure that when the reader reads your writing, that it sounds good to their ears. Now, sometimes they might be reading it aloud, and other times they're just reading it in their head. But they should be able to hear what you're saying as they read it. And when they read it, we want it to sound good and smooth. We don't want it to sound like a robot. And the way that you want to do this is you want to make sure you include a few different things. First off, you want to make sure your writing is easy to read the first time. So in the class, normally I would have my students go back to one of their pieces of writing, and then they grab a whisper phone, and they actually will read their writing to themselves. And if it's not easy to read, we have a problem, and they have to go back and make some changes. So we want to make sure that when the readers read it the first time, they can read it nice and easily. Next, you want to make sure that you use different kinds of sentences. That means in your writing, you want to make sure you include statement sentences that have a period at the end, maybe some question sentences, and maybe even some exclamation sentences. And when you use a variety, that really helps to create that fluency in your writing. Something else that's really important in sentence fluency is the length of your sentences. A lot of times we hear of sentences that kind of have a bunch of short sentences, or maybe just medium sentences. But really, with good sentence fluency, we should have sentences that are small, medium, and long. And so if you look over here, I like to think about a slinky. And when I read your writing, or when your teacher reads your writing, they kind of imagine a slinky either getting small, bigger, or biggest, depending on how long your sentences are. And we don't want the slinky to just stay in one place. It should be moving. It should be small, then big and long, and then medium, and small, and medium, and big. And so we could imagine that as your sentences are small, medium, and long. And then finally, you want to make sure that your sentences begin with different words. So imagine if I had a paragraph that I was writing and I said, I like pizza. I like roller skating. I like going to the beach. Isn't it kind of boring, and doesn't that kind of sound like a robot? We need to change up the beginning of those sentences to make it sound better as we read it. So here are 2 examples of sentence fluency, and one is way better than the other. Let's look at the first box up here. It says, I love shopping. My friend and I will go shopping. We love to buy clothes. She likes buying jeans. I like buying shoes more. Okay, well, this is fine if you're a first grader or maybe a second grader. But we're third graders now. I think we could do better than this. If you notice, most of these sentences are kind of medium-sized sentences. There's not any really big or too small. And if it's just medium, 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 it's kind of boring. Also, do you notice here it says, I love, we love, she likes, I like. This author is kind of starting the sentences with the same thing and repeating it over and over again. And that isn't really good sentence fluency. So the author came back and they rewrote this. And man, this is so much better. Now this looks like third grade writing. And it says, on any day of the week, I enjoy shopping at the mall. Hoping to find the best deal, I stop in every store. Rachel, my best friend, always comes along. While she prefers buying clothes, I purchase shoes. To shop is to live is a motto we chant. Wow, isn't that so much better? I see much more variety in the sentences, and it also has different beginnings for each of these sentences now. So just like we've looked at different authors and we see how they do their writing, we're going to look at a couple authors here who wrote The Girl Who Never Made Mistakes. And I love this book because it also talks about growth mindset and about making mistakes. And we all know it is possible to never make a mistake. So we're going to see if something happens with this girl, the girl who never made mistakes. As you listen and we go through this story, I want you to make sure you're looking at the sentences. And I want you to see, are some sentences long and some short and some medium, and see if the authors give a variety here of different types of sentences. Let's take a look.
The Girl Who Never Made Mistakes by Mark Pett and Gary Rubenstein, illustrated by Mark Pett. For Beatrice Bottomwell, Friday began like any other day. She matched her socks and, of course, she put her shoes on their proper feet. She remembered to feed her hamster, Humbert, his favorite food, broccoli. And when she made a sandwich for her brother Carl's lunch, she used exactly the same amount of peanut butter as jelly. When she stepped outside to greet her fans, she didn't forget to say good morning and thank you. They asked if she made her bed. She had. They asked if she forgot to do her math homework. Nope. What about tonight's talent show, they asked. I'm ready, said Beatrice with a smile. After all, her juggling act had won 3 years in a row. Most people in town didn't even know Beatrice's name. They just called her the Girl Who Never Makes Mistakes, because for as long as anyone could remember, she never did. Unlike Beatrice, Carl made lots of mistakes. He ate his crayons and he drew with his green beans. He danced with his hands and played the piano with his feet. Carl loved to make mistakes. At school, Beatrice was on a cooking team with her 2 best friends, Millie and Sarah. To make their giant rhubarb muffins, they need 4 eggs. Beatrice went to the refrigerator and carefully chose the biggest, eggiest eggs she could find. But on the way back, her legs slipped out from under her. The eggs went flying. Beatrice was about to make her first mistake. But she didn't. That was close, thought Beatrice. Sorry, Beatrice, I dropped a piece of rhubarb. Oh, accident, Illy. For the rest of the school day, Beatrice could not stop thinking about her almost mistake. On her way home from school, Beatrice watched Millie and Sarah ice skating in the park. Come join us, said Millie. It's fun, said Sarah. Beatrice watched them slip and slide on the frozen pond. Millie and Sarah laughed as they wobbled on the ice. No thanks, said Beatrice. At supper, Beatrice barely touched her food. Is everything all right, kiddo? Asked her father. I'm worried I'll mess up tonight, said Beatrice, and everyone will be watching. Worry? You don't make mistakes, he said with a smile. Beatrice tried to smile too. After supper, Beatrice got ready for the talent show. First, she woke Humbert from his nap. Next, she got a salt shaker from the kitchen table. Finally, she filled a balloon with water. The school auditorium was packed. Beatrice felt her stomach jumping around inside her. Beatrice waited for her juggling music to begin. That's her! That's the girl who never makes mistakes, said a woman. Oh, wow, we know she'll be perfect, said a man. When the music started, she tossed Humbert into the air. Next, she added the salt shaker, and finally, the water balloon. Beatrice didn't miss a beat. The crowd clapped with delight. But Beatrice noticed something odd about the salt shaker. The specks falling out of it were not white. Achoo! Humbert was so surprised by his sneeze that he grabbed the water balloon with his claws. Kablooey! Humbert, pieces of water balloon, and the pepper rained down on top of Beatrice. For the first time in as long as anyone could remember, Beatrice made a mistake, and it was a big one. The music stopped. Beatrice didn't know what to do. Cry? Run off stage? The crowd sat stunned. They could not believe the girl who never makes mistakes made a mistake. Beatrice looked up at Humbert. He looked back at her. His hamster fur was soaked and speckled with bits of balloon. Beatrice let out a giggle. The giggle grew into a chuckle, and the chuckle became a laugh. The people in the crowd looked at each other, then back at Beatrice. They began to giggle, then chuckle, then finally roar with laughter. Beatrice and the audience laughed until they couldn't remember why they were laughing. That night, Beatrice slept better than she ever had. In the morning, no fans greeted Beatrice. When she got dressed, Beatrice, for no reason at all, put a polka dot sock on one foot and a plaid sock on the other. Beatrice and Carl made sandwiches. This time they put the peanut butter and jelly on the outside. They called this an inside-out PB&J. Lunch was messy and delicious. Later, Beatrice found Millie and Sarah skating in the park. They fell a lot and laughed. Now, people no longer call her the girl who never makes mistakes. They just call her Beatrice.
All right. So let's reflect on this text. And first, we want to say, did the authors make it easy to read? They sure did. Not only was it easy to read, it was really interesting. I love this story. Did they use different types of sentences and different lengths? Well, let's take a look. If you look down below, the first sentence over here says, when she stepped outside to greet her fans, she didn't forget to say good morning and thank you. Well, that kind of looks like a long sentence to me. What about over here? They asked if she made her bed. She did. So now we go from a medium sentence to a short. They asked if she forgot to do her math homework. Nope. Again, we go from medium to short. So we see that she has different lengths of sentences. And then look at this. We have a question over here and an exclamation over here. So she used a different variety of different types of sentences as well, or the authors did. And then finally, do the beginning of the sentences have different words? And they do. So today, when you go back to your Google Classroom to look at your assignment, you're going to be writing another journal. And in your journal, you are going to answer this. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? And as you're answering that, you want to make sure that you include different lengths and different types of sentences. So you want to maybe have some short sentences and then go into a long sentence and then a medium and then a long and then a short and really change that up. So it's not just like, I would like to go to Paris. I would like to see the Eiffel Tower. I would like to, okay, right? It kind of sounds boring. You want to make sure you kind of change that up a little bit and also change the way that you start each of those sentences. You also want to make sure that you describe why you would want to go there, describe what you would do and what you would see. Make sure that you stay on topic and only talk about that one place that you want to go to. And then finally, make sure that you put your ideas in an order that makes sense. So think about how you want to organize that. And if you actually want to organize it by saying where you would go, why you would go there, what would you do, what would you see, that's a pretty good order. And lastly, don't forget, we need to have at least 5 sentences. Right, that's it for me. Let's go be writers.